honored to be here in year 11 doing this program, and we've done this many, many years here on this program, and it's all part and parcel of one of the greatest blessings that I've had since moving out here to Los Angeles, that Susie and I got to meet Linda and Al Michaels and befriend and call this man a friend, and he is back here on the program again in advance of celebrating another year of the Miracle on Ice. Good to see you, Al Michaels. How are you, sir? How are you, brother?
45 years. I think we've done...
Unbelievable.
I know we've done 40, maybe 42.
Yeah.
Can we both last 5 more? Can you still be here? Yes, that will be one hell of a celebration.
It will be 50.
It will be.
But 45 is no slouch in its own right.
Unbelievable.
Now, that's tomorrow.
It is.
Is the Saturday, February 22nd, will be the 45th anniversary. What were you doing the day before? What was the day before?
Well, the day before was an off day. Remember, the U.S. team had played 5 games in Lake Placid leading up to getting into the medal round. So the day before, I'm just preparing for the Friday game against the Soviets. My partner, Ken Dryden, after they had played, the United States had beaten West Germany on Wednesday night, got into a car, was driven overnight to Ottawa to take the bar exam, which he not only passed, but I believe he had the highest score of that bar exam, got in a car and came back. I've always said Ken is about as smart a man as I've ever met, a true Renaissance man, a man who, had he desired to become the Prime Minister of Canada, probably could have. He did serve in the Parliament for a while, but then decided he wanted to do other things. He passed the bar exam with flying colors. So that's what he did the day before the game, and I'm sitting in my room just learning how to pronounce every Soviet player's name.
The polysyllabic test you were taking there.
The great thing is almost every one of them ends with "ov." You know, Fetisov, Makarov, the whole thing, Krutov. Perfect.
There was that benefit of that for sure, and then of course the game itself. What was it like the day leading up to the convening inside the arena for that big game against the Russians?
I mean, so much anticipation, but the game was going to start at 5 o'clock. The way it worked out, you didn't know who was going to play who until the early round was completed, at which point the U.S. finished second in its bracket and the Soviets were first. So 2 in the U.S. bracket wound up playing 1. So people who bought the 8 o'clock ticket, they didn't know what game they were going to get. They got Sweden, Finland. If you had the 5 o'clock ticket at $69.20 face price, you got the U.S. against the Soviet Union. And that's why the game wound up on tape delay, because ABC tried like crazy to get them to move that game to 8 o'clock. But the Soviet Federation basically said, no dice.
Yet,
niet with a lot of exclamation points. And, we weren't the friendliest with the Soviet Union at that time, which, of course, played into what made that game so special. So I walked over to the arena with Ken Dryden at about 1:30. We were staying at the Hilton Hotel, which is like 3 or 4 blocks away. And I remember one part of the conversation with Ken was, if the U.S. only trails something like 3-1 in the middle of the second period, that's about all we could hope for. Because what we feared, certainly I feared, was the Soviets would lead 6-0, 14 minutes to go in the second period, and everybody's gone. And knowing Rune Arledge at that time, who was running ABC Sports, he probably would have put on figure skating ordinals or something, anything to get away from that game. So this was what we were hoping for. And, of course, as the game evolved, and it was only 3-2 at the end of the second period, we hit a grand slam home run. It was a close game after 2 periods. And you and I have talked about this in the past, but there were so many interesting and fascinating things about that game. The Soviets, number one, outshot the United States 39-16, 2.5-to-1 ratio. They outshot the U.S. 15-3 in the second period. They dominated the time of in the offensive zone for the Soviets was 2 or 3 times what it was in the U.S. zone. The U.S. came from behind 3 times, down 1-0, 2-1, 3-2, and of course take the lead on Mark Johnson's tying goal and Eruzione's game winner. So how often will you see a game? It's almost never where a team gets outshot 2.5 to 1, and comes from behind 3 times. It almost never happens. It happened that night.
And speaking of the Eruzione moment, let's relive that here with Al Michaels sitting with us. Roll it.
The U.S. team is depending a little bit too much now on Jim Craig. He's making too many good saves. Eruzione! Mike Eruzione! Now we've got Bedlam.
Now we got Bedlam, and now, live on the Rich Eisen Show, Al Michaels, I'm pleased to say, we now have Mike Eruzione as well joining us live here on the program.
There's
the captain. There's the captain.
Alfalfa.
The honorary captain of the U.S. team last night. That was fabulous.
Hey, did the goal go in again in the highlight there?
I mean, now that we have Mike, a couple of things. Mike said if that puck doesn't go in, he's spent the last 45 years painting bridges, right? He'd have done a little bit better than that. But I love the fact he says every once in a while he might get a little down. He'll go home and put the tape in. Best thing about that tape, every time he shoots, the puck goes in. And it will forever, my man.
Oh, nice to see you. Thanks for letting me join you today.
Oh, you kidding me, Mike? Thank you for doing this. You just make it that much more special. I mean, when you see that moment relived, what goes through your mind 45 years ago tomorrow, Mike?
Well, I just think the joy that my teammates and I experienced of, winning a big hockey game. And it's funny because we're going to celebrate the Soviets tomorrow, but if we don't beat Finland, you and I aren't having this conversation today. So as great as the Soviet victory was, the Finland game became the biggest game for us. So and I look back again, like you said, and the question was at this moment, it's just the joy of realizing that we were then one more step away from realizing an ultimate dream. And you couldn't have been around a better group of players than my teammates, and just the joy and excitement of winning that game and what it eventually led to the next 2 days later to finish it off with the gold medal, and the joy we brought to a nation. We didn't know. We were just playing hockey in a little place in Lake Placid. There were no media, interviews. We weren't traveling around the country. There's no Facebook and Twitter, like social media. So we were in a little cocoon in Lake Placid, just having fun, and then realized that, oh my God, this thing's pretty big. And I think that's the pride and the joy that my teammates and I take with that.
It's so. I mean, there are so many parts to this that you go back and you think about them. And Mike is so right about the Finland game, because it was, and Mike was there. Herb Brooks basically telling the team in the locker room at the end of the second period, after they're trailing 2-1, if you lose this game, you're going to take it to your bleeping grave. And there's no question about that. If this team would have lost the Finland game, people would have said, let me get this straight. You beat the vaunted Soviet Union and you lost to Finland? Because on the reverse side of that would be like somebody from the Soviets. And in fact, I had the opportunity at the 2014 Olympics to interview Tretiak, the goalie who was pulled after the first period in that game. And then Michigan comes in, and they got, because Mark Johnson had scored at the buzzer at the end of the first period. So they take Tretiak, maybe the best goalie in the history of hockey. They take him out, and I asked him, what did people say to you guys when you got back to the Soviet Union? And he said, we'd walk around and people would say, you lost to a bunch of students? And the other thing he said to me was, I said to him, what did you think? Because they just won all the time. They won so much that Mike and I were talking the other day, at the end of the 1-goal victory that the U.S. had against the Soviets, they didn't even pull the goalie because they probably never practiced it. They were always winning. They didn't have to think about pulling the goalie for the extra skater. And Tretiak told me, when I said, what were you guys thinking? You're standing there pensively on the blue line. You're watching this crazy celebration. And he said to me, we wished we were them. Perfect.
What do you think about when you hear that, Mike?
I think it's great. No, but I think there was almost kind of not a relief, but they enjoyed watching us celebrate to a degree, because they never shared that. You never saw any emotion out of them. They were expected to win. That was their job. They worked. They were in the military. Some of these guys were going for their third gold medal. That's 12 years playing together. So for them to get beat like that, it was almost like, oh my God, I guess this is a celebration that we don't do that often. And maybe in some ways enjoyed watching us just, share that victory amongst all of us and the crowd.
So why do you think it worked for you guys, Mike? Like, why do you think this moment in time actually occurred all these years later now?
From the teams of winning the tournament, I think Dave Silk said it pretty well the other day when we were doing something. He said for a 2-week period of time, 20 players collectively played their best hockey they've ever played, individually and yet collectively. And I thought that was a pretty good point because I never really thought about that. But I've always said, if it wasn't for Mark Johnson, we don't win. Mark was the man. He when we needed a goal, it would be like, hey, Magic, time to do something. But we played 4 lines constantly. We didn't, shy away from playing everybody. Jimmy was great in the goal. And the one thing that I remember is I scored with 10 minutes left to go in the game. And I think, if I remember correctly, the Soviets only had 5 or 6 shots on goal in the last 10 minutes. They had like 30-something in the first 2 periods and a half. But in the last 10 minutes, we did a really good job of shutting them down. And I think that goes back to Herb as a coach. So everything worked. We clearly had some good players. We didn't suck. Kenny Morrow went on and won 4 Stanley Cups. Davey Christian, Mike Ramsey, and Neil Broughton played 17, 18 years in the National Hockey League. So we had some really good young players, but collectively we had the right players. And with Herb's leadership and the way he, played us and how we played, was a huge part of our success. And I'm going to give you a statistic, and I don't know if Al, if you even know this, and Robbie McClanahan gave this to me. In the third period of the Olympics, we outscored our opponents 15-3. That's an unbelievable number. And that goes back to the conditioning and the skating and the Herbies and everything that we had done to go out there and win. And Al mentioned it. We were losing to Sweden, we tied. We were losing to the Czechs, we won. We were losing to Norway, we came back. We were losing to West Germany by 2 goals, we came back. We were losing to the Soviets throughout the game, we came back. We were losing to Finland going into the third, we came back. That's a sign of a good hockey team. And that's a sign of, guys, and I talk about it all the time, who had incredible values, incredible work ethic. Herb used to call us a lunch pail, hard hat group of guys because that's what we were. We were an old-fashioned group of guys who believed in hard work. We believed in togetherness. And when you put all that together, usually good things happen. And I think, again, that's the side of our team that you don't measure. You don't see that. You don't measure heart and pride and commitment and the values that are important that our team had to go along with some pretty good hockey players. And so, again, having said all that, you just put that all together over a 2-week period of time. I think that's how we were able to win.
It's so interesting you're mentioning the fact that the U.S. played great third periods coming from behind in all of those games, including the 2 most important, the Soviets and Finland. And so you know what paid off? All those Herbies that he made you guys do, right? How angry he was when you're on that European tour and the game is over and he makes them keep the lights on in Helsinki or Oslo, I forgot where it was, and he makes the guys go up and back till they're puking, right? The conditioning paid off, didn't it?
And he shut the lights off in the building and we're still doing them. Yeah, every guy that I played with and went on and played in the National Hockey League, they said the best shape they've ever been in their life was the 6 months that we played under Herb. And he used to say there's a method to my madness. And clearly there was.
Where's the puck, Mike? Where's the puck that you put in the basket?
I don't know. I wish I had it because I could sell it for a lot of money.
Wow. Wait a minute. Where is that puck?
I was told that it went out of play. This is a true story. After I scored, he went back and they had a face-off. And at some point, the puck went in the stands. And a guy called me years later and said he had the puck and he wanted me to sign it because he wanted to sell it. And I'm like, how do I know it's the puck? Because it was just a black puck. It wasn't like in the days today with, they might even have chips in them to see,
right.
While they have logos on them. Man, I could go down my basement now and bring up a puck and say, hey, I got the puck from the game against the Soviets. Give me 50,000, So That's all I know. Is some guy said he got it in the stands. It went out of play.
So you score the goal. They use the puck again, and it gets sent out of play. Like goes over the boards into somebody's hands. Like that's literally what happened.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Mike, where's the stick?
I sold the stick from the Soviet game. I have my Finland stick. I'll be real quick here.
Sure.
10 years ago, I sold all my memorabilia other than my skates, my stick from the Finland game, the watch that I got, the ring that I got, the other ring that we got, and the gold medal. I still have those items. I got $1.6 million for my equipment, my shoulder pads, my shirts, the game shirts that I wore. I took the money. Financially, things are fine. I endowed a scholarship in my mother and father's name at Boston University. I have my own charitable foundation. I put money into my foundation, and my 3 kids took the money, and all 3 have bought houses.
Beautiful, Mike Eruzione.
But the other stuff's going to be sold soon.
Okay. Well, Mike, listen.
Except the medal.
Except the
Not
medal.
the medal, no,
Sure.
no
Hey,
way.
before I let you go, I would be remiss if I did not ask you what it was like last night to be out there, with Team USA and Gretzky and Team Canada and TD Garden, this 4 nations face off. You're wearing Johnny Hockey's sweater. I mean, what in the world was this like for you, Mike?
It was unbelievable. I'm from Boston, so to be in my backyard. I got to know the team. I spoke to the team in Montreal, so had a great relationship with the players. There were, 4 players from Boston University there as well, so that was kind of an induction for me to get to know all the other players fairly quickly. But the atmosphere in the building, the USA chants that were going on, it was electrifying. It was incredible. And I mean, Gretzky and I are standing there, and we both said it almost at the same time. I was more nervous on the ice last night with the opening of the game than I was against the opening of the game against the Soviets. And Gretz said, same as me. He said, I was never nervous playing hockey. He says, I'm nervous out here with all this noise. So it was just really nice. It was a great game. 2 great nations, great hockey back and forth. Unfortunately we didn't win the game, but we were not embarrassed by the game at all whatsoever. It could have gone either way.
Al, just wanted to hook you up with Mike Eruzione.
Oh,
today,
man,
brother.
it's always great. Yeah, Mike and I, we talk from time to time on the phone, and we've done a few events together. It's always great to see the great Mike Eruzione. Mike Eruzione!
Ross, thank you very much. Tell the leggy Greek I said hello.
And you say, my very best to his wife's name is Donna, but he calls her Donna, right?
Donna.
That old accent, the old New England accent.
Thanks for having me on the show. Keep talking to Al. He's got a lot of great stories.
You got it. Mike Eruzione, thanks, brother. That's captain of the 1980 U.S. men's Olympic gold medal team. Yeah. Pretty cool, huh?
Very cool. Very. It's just it's a story that really never gets old. I mean, I had no idea. Nobody had any idea at that point in 1980 how long it would last. I mean, Jim McKay said to me that we had a wrap-up show on Sunday night, and he brought all of the the announcers who had done the individual sports, and Keith Jackson had done Eric Heiden's gold medals, and Frank Gifford and Bob Beatty at alpine skiing. So I come in, and of course, this is going to be the premier segment that night because of what had happened earlier that day and over that weekend. And McKay said to me, "How long do you think this euphoria will last?" And I said, I don't know. It's of the moment right now, so we think it'll last forever. I don't know. We live in this world where things come and they go. In my heart, though, I thought maybe this one will last for a while. And here we are. Here we are in 2025.
And it is as fresh as ever, Al.
Well,
it really
I think
is.
a lot of it has to do, I think, with because a lot of people weren't born, obviously, at that time.
Right.
But I mean, HBO did a fantastic documentary. Ross Greenberg produced it back in 1980. In 2001, it was the 20th anniversary, but it took them an extra year to do it. It was fabulous. I thought it got everything exactly right. And then the movie Miracle, directed by Gavin O'Connor. You saw the Kurt Russell thing last night. Nobody. I think, captured anybody any better ever than they were in real life than Kurt did with Herb Brooks. I mean, it was so freaky. And I was a part of the movie doing some narration for the people and working very closely with Gavin O'Connor. So one little side story here. So Gavin tells me at one point he had this idea, and the movie turned out the way he wanted it to. But you know the way you're always getting notes from the higher-ups and the people in the creative end at Disney and all of that. And there were a couple of people that were pressuring him to turn this in to a love story between Herb and Patty Brooks. That was going to be the thrust of the movie. And it's amazing how many times these guys who do these movies have to fight. You've got to fight with all those people up above who are sitting in the ivory towers. Can you imagine turning that story into a coach and his wife love story as opposed to what it was turned into?
Like Herb busts out a bottle of Cabernet or something like that?
I don't know what they had in mind.
Oh, my goodness.
But Gavin stood his ground, and there you have the movie that, kids to this day just love to watch.
It's amazing. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.